Yes, so guys, this is a project of Mimi featuring Phil Bill 237 Mood. And the first thing I want to show you here is the color management page, which is very important. The timeline color space is DaVinci White Gamma, DaVinci Intermediate, and output color space is Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. Very important, you put it at Gamma, Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, and not Rec 709 Scene, because the two are different. Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, that's where we display, that's the color space where we're going to display all of our images, whether it's a screen, a monitor, or a phone. Yeah, so it's always good to leave it at Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. So let's move over to the source, which is why you're here. Basically, what I did was to go ahead. Some shots are missing, but that's okay. So what I did basically was to go ahead and group each scene. Like each scene has a particular group. So if you know DaVinci Resolve, you've been watching my tutorials, you know this is my workflow. So I grouped each scene, so it has different space where I could color grade each scene. It's very important. So after grouping, let's say this, so this scene is under one group, this scene, all this is under one group, all this is under one group. So this is a group, and then this is a clip. So this is a group post clip, which is where I do changes that will affect every shot in the group. So these changes that I do on the group post clip is more subtle. The intention for these changes is to do changes that can affect every shot in the group. And then over here, the clip, this is where I do changes that can affect, or that should affect, just a single clip. So most of the times when I'm color grading, I always do back and forth, from group post clip to clip, to help me fine tune or get my look properly well. So basically, let's get into the main thing. So I'll just highlight, I'll disable everything so you can see what I was seeing. So this is what I shot. This is what I shot. I'll just disable this too. Okay. Let's disable this. So the first thing I do once I'm done grouping each scene, I'll come over here to the CST in, and then I'll input my color space transform correctly. So the input color space will be DaVinci with the input color space will be DJI D Gamma, and input gamma DJI D lock, because I shot this with the DJI Ronin 4D. And then the output color space will be DaVinci White Gamma and DaVinci Intermediate for output gamma, because we want to work in a DaVinci White Gamma intermediate color space, remember. So I'm exporting this image to DaVinci White Gamma color space, which is actually white. And then over my post clip and CST out, and now receive the information, which is DaVinci White Gamma intermediate, and then the output color space Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, just like I told you guys. So this is very important, you get this. So my grading is going to come in between, this CST in and CST out, and then I could do some finer changes at the end just to help keep the look bold, make the look bold, which you'll see as we move ahead. So after the changes, you can see the colors we have. So right away, I see a lot of issues in the colors, and I have to go ahead and fix them. So that's how my workflow goes. So basically, the first thing I'll do after my CST is to work on the exposure, which is right here. I could not do the exposure under the group post clip because it's not the same from each shot. Each shot has a particular exposure that has to match the other clip. But then I could not just come over to the group post clip and then do exposure. It's not going to be the same with every shot. So that's why I go to the clips and then I do specific exposure settings to affect those specific shots. So I came over here, I did exposure. So this is my exposure, and I used basically the HDR palette, which is this, to kind of dial in the exposure. I also used primaries, and lift up the gamma, just play around till I got this, which was really okay and interesting for me. The next thing I did was to do white balance. And for the white balance, I had to do something that can affect every shot in the group. So I came over to the group post clip and I did some white balance here. So you can see before and after. And what I did was to change the gamma of the node to linear, and then came over to the primaries, and under gain, I just, remove some warmth tones from it, just a little, because I felt like it was a little warm. So just took away some warm tones from the image, and this affects all the other shots. This affects all the other shots in the group. So let's say this. So next, after the white balance, I could see a lot of issues that I want to fix. For example, this blue I was talking to you about. So I went over to HSL and I want these changes to affect all the other shots in the group. So under HSL, I just try to, reduce the saturation of the blue and the magenta colors, and then I tried to change the hue of that blue just a little. I didn't want to do it too much because I always like to do subtle changes, little changes, and at the end of the day, that's how I get my look. I don't like pushing my tools a little, like too much. Most times it breaks, so I always like to do little. It's like you're cooking a soup and you want to put salt and you just put like too much salt at once, you're going to spoil that soup. But then if you put little salt, little Maggi at the right time, you discover that at the end of the day you have a very delicious soup. So basically that's how color grading works. You do little changes, and then at the end of the day you have a great image. So basically that's what I did. Under HSL, I just reduced the saturation of these colors, blue and magenta, and also change the hue of this color just a little, and also the hue of the reds, I brought it down a little so I could have some nice colors there. And then after that, I came over here and did my subtractive saturation, which is more of filmic saturation. Instead of adding light when I'm saturating, I'm instead bringing down the lights and making the colors dense when I add saturation. So how did I do this? I came over here under color space, and I changed the color space to HSV, that's hue saturation value. So when I change the color space to this, under the channels, I take away the H, which is the hue, I take away the value, and I'm left with just the saturation. So now any controls that I change here will affect just the saturation. So I use the gamma, increase it a little, and then increase the gain just a little, so I can have like good rich saturation, but without making it feel unnatural. That's what I did. So This is my subtractive saturation, and I did it under the group post clip, so it should affect all the other shots in the group, so that's fine. After that, I went ahead to go over to all of my shots in that group to ensure that everything looks the way I want it to look. So looking at it is actually looking good, and but I think there's a lot more we can do. So under the clip, I had to do some white balance because I felt like the image was a little too warmed for my liking, after doing the subtractive saturation. So I wanted to bring out some warmth away from the image. And how did I do that? I did white balance, but I did not do it under the group post because I wanted it to be relative to each shot. So I did it under the clip, and you can see here, this is before and after, and I went ahead and copied that same white balance to all the other clips in the group, differently, so that if maybe I need to change something here on this shot, I'll just change it right here without affecting the other clips. So that's how I went ahead to do the white balance under this clip. And then after, I think I was ready to start fine-tuning my look, start bringing those colors that I really really like. So I had two notes here for group, but I literally used one, and I used the color slicer. You can see before and after. So under color slicer, basically I just wanted to fine-tune this blue a little more. Remember, I told you I don't like to push my tools too much. I like to do little changes which finally end up giving me the look. So under the color slicer, I just pushed the hue of the blue a little towards the cyan. So I did say this is before and this is after. Before, after, you can see right here, I just did this. I pushed it a little bit, and that was okay for me. The blue was not yet exactly how I want it to be, but these little changes is a step towards how I want it to be. So I'm okay with it. I don't need to do too much. I'll move ahead to the next thing, which is the skin. So before the skin, I had to work on this blue, like I had to take this blue to where I want it to be, and I did not want to do it under the group post clip. Somehow, for some reason, I felt like it's going to break. So I had to do the final changes under the clip. So if you see this, bam, there you go. So under the clip, I did HSL and just brought up the hue up of this blue and magenta, and it gave me this. I also brought down the saturation quite pretty much, and it gave me this. And then I copied this to the other shots in the group. I copied this to the other shots in the group so that it stays consistent, and it looks nice. I didn't want to do this under the group post. For some reason, I felt like it worked better under the clip than under the group post clip. So that's how I did this, and you can see now the color feels natural, feels nice, just like I wanted. So I went over to work on the skin, which is the next. So you can see before and after. So this is like fine-tuning the skin, and what I did was to use a DCTL from Kazi skin compressor, and I just applied it on the shot, changed the compression of the skin right up to 1000, and then I started moving the hue, back a little, just to ensure that the skin is right on the skin tone line, and you can see this before after. And remember, I also brought down the saturation of these warm colors just to ensure that the skin is blending quite very well with the blue colors, and that's it. So after the skin, the next thing I wanted to do was to, fine tune, because the look already looked pretty nice for me. Like with this, I could export and the artist would be happy, but I just wanted to, take an extra step towards perfection, even though perfection doesn't exist, but that's me anyway. I always like to do, add 1% onto what I'm doing just to keep it or make it nicer or give it more cooler look. Why not if I can do it? So that's what I did. So right here, I just added one more color slicer, and this color slicer was just to help, like, see what it's doing, was just to help fine tune this color a little, this blue color a little, so it doesn't look fake. I always like when my images feel like I'm not color grading. Like it feels like I didn't color grade. I just captured it like that. I always like when it feels that way. I don't like when it feels like I'm forcing, colors into the images. And how did I do it? I don't like color slicer. I just brought down the saturation of the blue. See right here, I just brought it down a little, and you can see before, after. You see that? So it helps to like really blend the skin and the blue a little more, which is what I really wanted. And then looking at it, I felt like it was really nice, but like I said, I always like to add 1%. So I went ahead and I add the Dehancer plugin. And this Dehancer plugin, you know about the Dehancer plugin, of course, because it's out there for a while now. And basically, I just added a Dehancer plugin before the CST out, and then I just use a print, Fujifilm 3513 film print. I didn't use the film stocks. I used just the print and then the expand on this. Probably, I think I used did I use the grain? Yes, I used the grain, but the grain was really mild. So this was just to help add that punch, that filmic contrast and punch which is coming out from Dehancer. And Dehancer is a plugin which helps you acquire, or which helps you get that film look, because it actually processes your image just like how films were being processed in the past. You had to shoot on film cameras, and then you process it through a film stock, and then from there you print it out, either through with Kodak 2383 or Fujifilm. So what I did here was just to leave the film stock the way it is, and then I came over the print. I just wanted to get that film print contrast, which is what I got here. I just used the Fujifilm 3513 film contrast, and it gave me this. You can see that before and after. So you see how it helps punch out the image, which is what I wanted. So I moved to the next, which is the blacks, because I felt like it was looking good, but then some things were really off for me. Like the blacks, I felt like the blacks were not really that clean enough, and I could see it under my waveform. The blacks were not really clean enough, so I wanted to clean the blacks a little more. So that's where I came over here, and then under the blacks I just added I felt like the blacks had some cool colors. Like if you see here, had some cool tones, like the deepest blacks had some cool tones. So I needed to balance it by adding the opposite of cool tones, which is warm. And this is what happens. You see that I just balanced those blacks, and I did that with the log wheel. Just came over to the shadows and then added some warm tones, and it gave me this. So you can see before and after. You can see that it works pretty well, and this was looking really good. The next thing, I just added halation, which is just a personal style for me, and I used the Kazi halation toolkit too, which is, I think, is really nice and natural. And then lastly, I used the black levels. Like my black levels, I felt like the black levels were a little touching the 0 point. I just wanted to lift it up, and this is what happens after that. You can see, so this is before and after. I just brought up the black levels, and I did that through the curves and low soft. I just added a low soft a little, and it gave me this, which is what I wanted for this look. And you can see that it actually helps to keep the dynamic range, keep all the details in the black areas, and then still have that strong contrast, which is what we want. And at the end of the day, I just added some sharpen, and the image was good. And how did I do the sharpening? I came over here, qualifier, and I qualified just the highlights, just the highlights of the image. So this is it. Like the highlights and mid-tones, I qualified them, ensure that I'm not affecting the shadows or the darkest points of the image. And then under that, I just added some little sharpening on those mid-tones and highlights, because you don't want to add sharpening on your shadows. You're going to spoil the image. So you want the sharpening to always happen around the mid-tones and highlights, which is always which always feels better. Yeah, so I mean, simple and straight to the point, and that's how I got this look. And obviously noise reduction, which came in later at the end, just to help, remove some noise that we could see. And there you go. That's it. That's how we got this look. You see how simple it felt, but it took a lot of time to decide and make decisions, the right decisions, especially also ensuring that you're not doing too much. But then you can see how little changes finally end up giving us that beautiful or that delicious image or soup that we were cooking. So that's it, guys. So just go ahead, share, and send to others so they could learn and grab something from this. Thank you once again. My name is Dr. King 70K. Mr. Will take another shot, and see you next time.